Mr. Captain! Come back to the ship!
There is no cause for any excitement. All of you get what you can in the way of clothes and come on deck as soon as you can. She is torn to bits below, but she will not sink if her after bulkhead holds. Captain Edward John Smith, RMS Titanic, April 14, 1912. The cold Atlantic wind howled that night, a wind that carried whispers of fate, ambition, and human error. It was April 1912. The largest ship the world had ever seen, the RMS Titanic, sliced through the North Atlantic, her bow glowing under the stars. At her helm stood Captain Edward John Smith, a man of experience, pride, and prestige. Revered by the elite and trusted by the White Star Line, he was called the Millionaire's Captain, handpicked to command Titanic's maiden voyage. But destiny had different plans. This is not just a story of a ship and its tragic end. This is the story of the man who went down with it, a tale of decisions made, warnings ignored, and a legacy still debated a century later. Edward John Smith was born on January 27, 1850, in Hanley, Staffordshire, England. His father was a potter, and like many in the industrial heart of England, young Edward was expected to follow in those muddy footsteps. But he was drawn not to clay, but to the call of the sea. At the age of 17, he joined the merchant navy and quickly proved his mettle as a disciplined, strong, and ambitious seaman. He wasn't born into aristocracy or privilege, he earned every stripe through grit and resilience. By 1880, Smith joined the White Star Line, a prestigious shipping company rising to dominance in transatlantic travel. His first command came in 1887, and soon, he became the go-to captain for ships carrying the wealthy and famous. Smith developed a reputation for calm authority and flawless safety record. Passengers loved him. Crew respected him. The company trusted him with their crown jewels, including Olympic-class ships. He captained many famous ships. RMS Majestic, RMS Baltic, RMS Adriatic, RMS Olympic. By the early 1900s, he became the chief commander of White Star Line, an unofficial title given due to his seniority and respect. It was said, "If Smith is in command, nothing will go wrong." How tragically ironic those words would become. The RMS Titanic was a floating palace. 880 feet long. 46,000 tons. State-of-the-art technology. Its builders called it practically unsinkable. In April 1912, Captain Smith was asked to command her maiden voyage from Southampton to New York, a prestigious final assignment, as he had planned to retire after this journey. With over 2,200 passengers, including millionaires, aristocrats, immigrants, and crew, Titanic set sail on April 10, 1912. The journey began with celebration. It would end in silence. As Titanic sailed across the North Atlantic, ice warnings began pouring in from other ships. Between April 11 and April 14, the ship's wireless operators received at least 6 warnings about icebergs drifting near their route, especially around the Grand Banks of Newfoundland. But Titanic steamed ahead at nearly 22 knots, close to full speed. Why? Part of it was confidence. This was a brand new vessel, reinforced steel hull, and equipped with cutting-edge safety design. Part of it was expectation. White Star Line wanted to make headlines, and a fast maiden voyage would bring prestige and profit. But was Captain Smith reckless? There's no evidence he was chasing a speed record. Titanic was built for luxury, not speed. However, many historians believe he underestimated the danger, relying too heavily on Titanic's size and reputation. It was a clear, moonless night. The ocean was unusually calm, eerily calm, making it harder to see icebergs as there were no waves breaking at their base. At 11:40 p.m., the lookout shouted, "Iceberg right ahead." The ship tried to turn and reverse the engines, but it was too late. A 300-foot-long gash tore along the starboard side of the hull. Water began pouring into the lower compartments. Titanic was doomed, though not everyone realized it immediately. Captain Smith was in his cabin when the iceberg struck. He rushed to the bridge, assessed the damage, and summoned Thomas Andrews, the ship's builder and chief designer. The news was devastating. At least 5 watertight compartments were flooding. Titanic could stay afloat with 4, but 5 was fatal. Smith turned pale and silent. He realized the unthinkable had happened. He immediately ordered lifeboats to be uncovered, passengers to be awakened, a CQD distress call to be sent, later followed by SOS. Despite the chaos, Smith remained stoic and collected. He went from deck to deck, urging women and children to the lifeboats. Yet, due to poor communication and lack of training, lifeboats were launched half full. Many refused to believe the Titanic would actually sink. Captain Smith moved like a man possessed by duty. He personally oversaw lifeboat launches. He gave orders with precision, yet with calm sadness, as if he knew his fate was sealed. One steward later recalled Smith saying, "Ladies, you must get what you can in the way of clothes and come on deck. Get what you can and come quickly. She is torn to bits below, but she will not sink if her after bulkhead holds." At 2 a.m., the ship was almost vertical. Screams echoed across the sea. Smith's last known sighting was near the bridge. Some claimed he jumped into the sea and swam toward a lifeboat, giving a baby to someone before disappearing into the darkness. Others said he went down with dignity on the bridge, alone. His final reported words: "Be British." The morning of April 15, 1912, brought with it headlines soaked in disbelief. Titanic lost in mid-Atlantic. 1,500 perish. The RMS Carpathia, having received Titanic's distress call, raced through icy waters to arrive at the scene around 4 a.m. All it found was a field of debris, empty life jackets, and survivors in lifeboats, freezing and traumatized. Of over 2,200 people aboard, only 705 survived. Captain Edward Smith's body was never recovered. Like the ship he commanded, he was swallowed by the sea. Both British and American investigations were launched to understand how the most advanced ship in the world could be lost on its maiden voyage. Questions arose. Why were the lifeboats so few? Why were ice warnings ignored? Was Captain Smith at fault? The inquiries concluded that the disaster was caused by excessive speed in icy waters, failure to heed multiple iceberg warnings, lack of preparation for evacuation. Smith was criticized, but not harshly condemned. Many believed he died fulfilling his duty, and that he was a victim of hubris, not malice. "He did all that man could do," wrote one survivor. Captain Smith's legacy is one of conflicting emotions. To some, he was a hero, calmly assisting passengers, ensuring women and children were loaded first, and dying with honor. To others, he was irresponsible, for maintaining high speed despite iceberg warnings, and failing to organize lifeboat drills or training the crew effectively. Then there are those who see him as a symbol, a man caught in the crossfire of fate, technology, and human arrogance. In a time when the world was celebrating man's mastery over nature, Titanic's loss was a brutal reminder that nature still reigned. Captain Smith became the subject of countless stories, rumors, and interpretations. Myth 1. He shot himself. Some survivors claimed they saw Smith shoot himself on the bridge, but this was never confirmed. Many others denied it, saying he was seen swimming, helping others even in his final moments. Myth 2. He was drinking. There were whispers that Smith had been drinking before the collision. But no credible evidence supports this, and it contradicts multiple witness testimonies describing him as calm and sober. Myth 3. He froze in fear. Some say he became withdrawn, unable to issue clear orders. But dozens of crew members testified that he remained actively engaged in lifeboat efforts until the end. Captain Smith has been immortalized in films, books, documentaries, and even poems. In James Cameron's Titanic, 1997. Played by Bernard Hill, Smith is portrayed as a dignified, somewhat overwhelmed leader who dies at his post, alone on the bridge as water bursts in. In literature, authors depict him variously as a fallen hero, a victim of overconfidence, or a tragic figure, shackled to duty in a moment when no training could prepare a man for what was to come. In memorials and statues. A bronze statue in Lichfield, England honors his memory. Titanic museums around the world keep his story alive, often focusing on his humanity, not just his rank. There's an ancient maritime code: the captain goes down with the ship. Edward Smith didn't invent it, but he lived it. In an age when many men scrambled for lifeboats, Smith chose the bridge over escape, the ship over survival, and the crew over comfort. He didn't have to. But he believed in duty, even when death stood at his door, shivering in the icy dark. He became a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of sacrifice, dignity, and ultimate leadership. Had Smith slowed Titanic down? Had he insisted on lifeboat drills? Had he reacted faster? Would lives have been saved? These questions have echoed for over a century, in investigations, books, movies, classrooms, and even courtrooms. But hindsight is perfect. The North Atlantic that night was not. Smith was a man, not a myth. And in those final hours, amidst screams, chaos, and steel twisting in the deep, he did what he believed was right. Over time, historians have grown more balanced in judging Edward Smith. He wasn't infallible, but he wasn't cowardly either. He was the product of his time, an era of industrial optimism, blind faith in technology, and social hierarchy. He died not because he was weak, but perhaps because he was too loyal to the ship, too bound to honor, too sure of man's triumph over nature. Edward John Smith's story still haunts the waves. Every time Titanic resurfaces in media, in documentaries, in deep-sea explorations, or in the hearts of those who love true stories, Smith returns with it. Not as a villain, not as a saint, but as a tragic man on a majestic ship, both of whom were swallowed by ambition and the ocean. He didn't survive that night. But his story did. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real legacy. That a man can be flawed, noble, confused, and heroic, all at once. In the silence of the Atlantic, where steel and souls vanished beneath the waves, one name still echoes through time: Captain Edward John Smith. His was not just the story of a sinking ship, it was the story of duty, of pride, and of the fragile line between man and myth. And here at Hidden Epoch, we believe stories like his must never be forgotten. If this journey through history stirred your soul, if the courage and conflict of this final voyage touched your heart, then we invite you to become part of our voyage. Subscribe to Hidden Epoch, where legends live, lost moments are rediscovered, and history is told like never before. Because in every shadow of the past, there is light, there is truth, there is a hidden epoch.